Welcome, horror fans. This is Fear the Talking Heads. I'm your host, Barb, joined by Jason, friend and artist out of Lexington, Kentucky. He is actually has illustrated a very rad piece right behind him, actually, um, for Dream Warriors. So lucky VIP guests at or VIP attendees at Scarefest will have that in their bag. And then you're also thinking of having some for sale, some prints for
Yeah,
sale.
I will have a few in very limited quantities at my booth, so at
Okay.
Scarefest. So
And
yeah,
being that our star of the week that we're diving into is Jennifer Rubin, the one and only,
yeah,
it just seemed perfect to make the poster this, right?
how fitting. Yeah.
Yes. So, do you want to talk to everyone about how you went through the process of the artwork and how you decided on that particular layout?
Um, yeah, well, obviously Scarefest is going to be very Freddy heavy this year. So with Heather Langenkamp coming in, of course, all the Dream Warriors. Not all of them, but so far, four of them have been announced. And Robert himself, of course. So I just thought it would be cool the past 2 years I've done Friday the 13th prints. Uh, this year I thought we'd switch it up and go down Freddy's Avenue, but um, I wasn't sure really what I wanted to do layout wise. I toyed with a few ideas in my head, and then I decided well, it would be cool to make it sort of laid out like an old uh, late 60s, early 70s comic book cover. With like the strip at the top that says like Marvel Comics presents. Well, this one says Jason Shepard Artworks presents with the little tab in the corner. And of course, the number of the comic is 17 because it's Scarefest 17. And got the Dream Warriors over there on the left side. And um, uh, I don't know if they end up booking more Dream Warriors, I'm going to have a problem trying to fit them on there, but I'm going to make it work if that happens. So I will do my best to make that work. So yeah.
And I swear this, I know I say this about a lot of stuff, but I swear that would look excellent as a t-shirt.
Um,
I just want to see
yeah,
everything on clothing.
yeah.
Just put everything out on t-shirts.
Never say never. Never say never. Yeah.
So, I'm excited about this episode.
I am too. Jennifer has been my topic of movie viewing this past couple weeks.
Yeah.
So really cool stuff that she's done, and definitely some flicks that are worth checking out. So
Yeah,
excited
and
to talk
I
about them.
and the idea of going back and just reviewing some of the movies maybe that we hadn't seen or the forgotten ones, I definitely had a good time with a few of those that were on the list, and I would go back and rewatch. So I mean, we're obviously going to talk about her iconic role that everyone knows about, where she's Taryn and facing off with Freddy, and easily my favorite character of the movie. I don't know about you. I think you said yours was
I think
Kincaid.
Kincaid might be, but I
Yeah,
mean, I like
yeah,
them all for what they
yeah,
what they have to offer. Yeah, but
for sure.
you know,
And seeing them all play these characters where they have powers in the dreams and they completely have something that they can fight Freddy with, was something we hadn't seen done before, and it just brought something new to the table, in my opinion.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I love that aspect of just tapping into your inner dream powers and making them manifest and using them to kick some Freddy butt. It's pretty cool.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Now with Taryn, it's interesting because it was kind of a polar opposite in her real life. She's basically in this group therapy for recovering from drug addiction. And so she's maybe a little more reserved, maybe kind of have feel it seems like she has a chip on her shoulder.
Yeah.
And then you get her in the dream world and she's beautiful and
And
bad.
bad. And bad. She is both.
In my dreams, I'm beautiful and bad.
Yeah. So I personally would have loved to have seen her in future episodes. It did not pan out that way, but because of that, looking at the chronological order of some of her movies here, she stayed steady busy.
She did.
Like she was making money.
Yeah.
So it did, but actors like, or I should say characters like that, that all these years later, we still look back and give them props is pretty amazing. I always bring up Matthew Lillard's role. You know, he was in the very first Scream, and yet all these years later, almost 30 years later, we're still talking about it. And it's kind of the same thing for her character in that.
Yeah.
So
Iconic, just
very
iconic. Yeah.
iconic.
Yeah.
And she deserved to be on your artwork. So I'm really glad she made it on there.
She does.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can meet her this year. Like last year, like meeting anybody at Scarefest, and usually it's never a problem. Last year,
Yeah.
it was just insane. So I didn't get to interact with anybody. So
Yes. Well, I'm curious, honestly, as time goes on, since this series is based on who's getting announced at Scarefest, it's anyone's guess who could end up being,
right,
the subject of our future podcast episodes.
who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
So now with that said, getting the main movie out of the way, the second one, I thought maybe you wanted to kick off talking about Bad Dreams, which came out only a year later.
Only a year later,
Yeah.
and believe it or not, guys, it's very, very similar to A Nightmare on Elm Street, Part Three, Dream Warriors. Jennifer Rubin stars as a young girl named Cynthia, who in the 70s was part of a free love cult called Unity Field. And in the very beginning of the movie, we see the cult leader leading the group to a mass suicide by fire in their compound or their house. And the only survivor was Cynthia, Jennifer Rubin's character. So she ends up in a coma, I think for it's probably something cliche like 20 years, but she comes out of this coma and finds herself in a hospital under some care, and the psychiatrist and the doctors are trying to get her back on her feet and back into the living world. And while she's trying to recover, she finds herself sort of having these visions of the cult leader who, whenever she sees him, the visions of him are very grotesque and burned and Freddie. And
You're
uh,
like,
uh, but the movie has enough, I think, like to offer on its own. It kind of like you can easily compare it to Dream Warriors because of the whole like situation she's in and the threat in the movie, but really it does have its own footing, and it's a very cool watch. It's one that I own on VHS, but I couldn't find it.
oh,
I
is that
don't
the
know.
one you couldn't find?
I'm
Okay.
kind of yeah, I'm kind of concerned about what I've done with it. I don't know. It's in there somewhere. But
Okay.
well, I did have my Dream Warriors to show off. So
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Nice.
So but yeah, and man, I mean, there's not much more I can say without spoiling the movie,
I
but
know.
yeah, I'm trying to think, is Bad Dreams available to stream? And I know I
I
think it might be on Shudder.
I thought I saw it somewhere but I think it was there was a charge to rent it, and I think that's why I was like, I remember enough
Gotcha.
of it that I can comment on it. So I do
Yeah,
remember there's certain scenes that I remember, like no one else is gonna know this, but the dude with the scalpel,
yeah,
whereas I don't know why, but that stayed in my mind
yeah.
all these years.
Those
But
little things.
she was great in it, and it's one of those movies, if you like movies that have a reveal at the ending that are different or surprising, you didn't expect it, this is a good movie to
Yeah.
dive into. In that way, I feel like, yes, it did gain some inspiration from Nightmare on Elm Street. I think that happens with a lot of movies, but it also turned the plot into something of its own. And it's one that I feel like maybe it doesn't have a cult following, cult following,
Oh, oh,
but but I do feel like you talk to some, that's one of those that probably didn't fly completely under the radar,
right.
because you talk to someone that probably have at least heard of the title of that
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
So yes,
Very good. I love it. I mean,
yeah, it's one to check out. It is kind of gruesome, so if you don't like the real gory stuff and you want to stick to more of the suspense thrillers, uh, then I would say the next movie that I want to talk about would be, and Jason didn't get a chance to see this one, but Um, it was Stranger by Night. And this one's more of a like thriller suspense, exactly what you would expect for the 90s. She's playing Dr. Ann, the psychiatrist, to this cop that's coming in that has anger issues, and he's having these blackouts where he'll fall asleep and wakes up somewhere different, and he doesn't know quite what's going on, but he knows that his dad had blackouts. So here he is, on the psychiatrist's couch, as you might say, and he's telling her his problems. Well, then you find out, like, and this is not really a spoiler, but you find out, oh, she's actually his lover too. So she's listening to him talk about his problems, but then she's also sleeping with him.
Oh,
And so he's visiting her time and time through the movie saying, something's wrong. I think I might have killed someone. And so he's a suspect of these women that are getting killed in the city. And what I liked about it was that at least 3 or 4 times I thought I knew who the killer was. And by the end, I was like, oh, so I love movies like that.
that's a good whodunit then.
Yes, I
Yeah,
like those whodunit movies. And the only thing that I will say, well, the only bad thing really is that there are a few cheesy parts. It is from the 90s. What are you gonna do? You're gonna have that. It's like nature of the beast.
yeah.
But the soundtrack was horrendous. I was like, this is so cheesy.
So what kind of like music was in the movie? Like what kind of, because
Well,
you
just
mentioned
think
the
like,
soundtrack was terrible. So
yeah, it was like just like all those, like, not even the good synth that you would see in, say, Halloween 3 or something, but it was just like I'm like, stop. Who was
oh,
in charge of this music? They need to be fired immediately.
yeah,
But if that's the only thing it had really bad for it, it's not terrible.
sure.
Uh,
I can get
well,
past that.
yeah, I could get past it. I still say you should watch that one if you
Definitely.
can if
Yeah.
you can catch that one, Stranger by Night. And I want to say it might have been something like Tubi that I saw that one on as well. So
Really?
yes, and William Cat is in it. And
William Cat.
William Cat, oh gosh, believe it or not, I'm walking on air.
Oh,
That
Greatest
guy.
American Hero.
Yes,
Oh, no
thank you.
kidding. Okay.
Nobody needed to hear me sing, but
Oh, it was gorgeous.
bonus.
It was beautiful.
So he's in it, and he's like his sidekick cop uh, character.
Okay.
And I liked him in it. I felt like he kind of basically was a bonus to the film
Yeah.
myself. But it was good.
Okay.
It was good. If somebody likes movies that it if you like detective kind of movies where they're trying to figure out who did it, I feel like there were a lot of these in the 90s, but this was good. And she didn't play a huge role in it, but she was his psychiatrist and his lover. So,
See, that's how I can kind of trick my girlfriend into watching horror movies or thrillers
yes.
like that. And I'm like, but babe, it's a detective and he's trying to figure out who's doing it. And she's like,
Yeah.
okay, because she's a big true crimey and
Yeah. This is one for
I'm
Micah.
like, come
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
She'd watch this one, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, next up, I think should we talk about The Fear Inside? Since we both
Yes.
uh-huh.
Let me preface this by saying that the only way that I was able to kind of watch this movie was that Barb sent me clips of her watching it on VHS. So as she sent them, I feel like as the movie went on, they were kind of sending and coming through out of sequence
I feel
because
so
as I
bad
was
about
watching,
that.
no, it's okay. I mean, but as I was watching, I was like, now wait a minute. I know that they're not having sex with each other right now because she just did this to him 10 minutes ago. Something doesn't sound right.
I think we can say that part. So they are saying that they're brother and sister, but they're not. Like,
Yeah,
so that's how they manipulate their way into Christine Lottie is the main character. It's her house
yeah,
that she puts out this ad saying, "Oh, I have a room for rent," and Jennifer Rubin's character knocks on the door, and she's like, "Oh, I'm here for to rent the room. Oh, do you have any?" this was wild to me. Oh, do you have any references? And she totally took her word for it. Like, well, my
Yeah,
brother's a cop, and I'm going to school to be a vet or whatever it was that she said. And Christine Lottie just like, oh yeah, come in, bring your stuff. I was just
yeah,
like, what?
right. Sounds
So,
good.
but she's agoraphobic, so I feel like she's a little maybe desperate for just company too,
Sure. Yeah.
being agoraphobic.
Hmm.
And so
Well, yeah, she was recently like divorced or separated.
yeah,
Yeah.
recently divorced. And so she has a son. The son is not home at the time that this girl moves in. So anyway, Jennifer Rubin, she's staying with her the very next day. The brother shows up. That's not really the brother. And but what I thought was kind of funny was that each frame you start to see Jennifer Rubin kind of changing. Her
Yes.
hair's getting wild because
Yeah, oh
she's
yeah. She
psycho.
got some wild hair in some scenes.
She's straight psycho.
Yeah.
And you see by the end just how unhinged she really is,
She does Psycho so well. She's
She kind
very
of
good at it.
does.
Very
Yeah.
good at it.
I'm shocked that she didn't get typecast after that, but yeah.
Right.
But I thought it was pretty good. And from the scenes that you saw, you
Yeah,
said you thought it was pretty good too.
I would definitely enjoy that
And it
to
is
see
one
it.
that I think went straight to video.
Really.
Yeah, I think it did. It wasn't a movie that you'd see like at the theater or anything like that, but
Yeah.
I've seen some pretty good straight to video movies
Oh
before.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I agree.
So that being said, that's one that I thought you could only get on VHS. So I went through the trouble of going to eBay to buy it because I thought, oh, the trailer looks so good. I'm gonna get it. And Dylan McDermott is in it too.
Oh
And I'm
yeah.
just like, okay, it's Dylan McDermott in an older role. I'm down for that.
Yeah.
But then, of course, I found out last night that you can watch that on YouTube. Someone uploaded it illegally. It's out there. So if you want to see it, The Fear Inside.
Not that we condone that,
Now, we don't condone it or anything, but if it's there,
just saying.
why waste the stream?
Right.
But
Watch it
all right.
before it gets taken down. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. So the next one that we can talk about is Screamers, which is a sci-fi horror that I saw with my dad when it first came out. This one is from 95, so it's only a year later after that Stranger by Night.
Look at her staying consistent.
Yeah. Yeah, she was
Just
she was
just
heavily working. I
yeah.
mean, every year had something going on. So,
Yeah.
but Screamers I really liked. In fact, it's one that I feel like if through time, some of these movies, being that they're older technology, CGI and all that, I feel like they kind of can lose something, but I don't feel like this did. I feel like the animated creatures that were very much like Tremors, but Tremors were fleshy creatures, whereas these were little androidish robot-y creatures that could F you up.
Mhm.
Like if they came in contact with your skin,
Yeah.
you're not going to have a leg anymore. So they were initially made in this dystopian, futuristic time, and they were supposed to be something that could help protect. Well, what happened is that it backfired and they start going after everyone then. Like, I don't care if you have a heartbeat, you're going down kind of thing.
Right.
So, but what I liked about it is that it's very much okay, they're evolving and they're self-replicating now, and you don't know who you can trust. Okay, so is that person over there one of those robots kind of thing? But I liked it. It's definitely a movie that goes in my rotation now after I've just seen it after not seeing it for decades. And this year is its 30th anniversary.
That's one that I had started a handful of years back, and I had it on for maybe 20 minutes, and I was like, oh, Jennifer Rubin, Peter Weller, right? So I was like, this could be cool. And then I think I just wasn't interested, and
Yeah.
I don't think maybe I didn't give it a fair sh shot. So uh, I'll definitely go back and watch it.
I
So
think you should. And I
yeah,
feel like over time, sometimes our taste changes too. Like there's movies back when I was in my 20s that I wouldn't have given a fair shake at that I would now dive into. So,
yeah, I agree. So
um,
yeah,
I think we've gotten through all of them except for for the
I'm excited to
yeah,
talk about it.
except for the crush,
Yeah,
which I'm glad we saved this one for last because so this one came out in 93 and I have to tell you, so this is one of those movies that's kind of like Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy, I don't know which one came first though.
that's the movie that I was when I was watching it, I was like, this really reminds me of something else, and I could not pinpoint it. It
Okay.
reminds me of Poison Ivy.
So The Crush came out in 93, Poison Ivy came out in 92. So The Crush may have borrowed some of that, but here's something that maybe you didn't know. The writer, or I'm sorry, the guy that wrote and direct, hang on, this is why it's nice to have edits.
Mhm.
Um, so basically the guy, I don't have it on here, but written and directed by this guy that actually had this really happen to him. And
Really?
yes, and so the girl's name allegedly was Darian, and it's Adrian in the movie, but I was starting to feel like I was involved in some kind of Mandela effect because when I'm watching it again, see, it was edited, the girl in this real life lawsuit, her name was Darian,
Okay.
right? And so she sued the crap out of him. And she's like, "You're using my real name. That's not okay." And so when it was edited for TV, it went Adrian instead of Darian. So just a little
Interesting.
bit of trivia because I was starting to think, did I just make something up? Because when I first saw it in the 90s, it was Darian.
Really?
Yes,
Yeah, well, if she's anything like the character, I would be changing it too. We're not going to mess with Darian. We're gonna change it.
right.
No,
Yeah, so
I'm not.
so it was originally Darian, like if you saw it at the movies and you saw it on DVD, which I think we own the DVD, I'm fairly sure, somewhere in a tote. And it was Darian. And so then when they started to say Adrian, I was like, am I losing it? Did she? And then to find out, oh no, it's like if you watch it on DVD, it still says Darian. And even like if you go to YouTube and you watch a trailer, it says Darian.
Wow,
Isn't that something?
that is something. Well, this movie, I mean, first of all, let's just Alicia Silverstone's first movie.
Yes. And she did a great job at someone who
Great
was
job.
14, 15 by the
14.
time it ended.
And I went into watching this yesterday with no I I didn't know who the cast was. I didn't know the plot. I just went in to watch it. And I was surprised at the credits at the beginning, like that stacked cast. I mean, Alicia Silverstone's first movie. We've got Carrie Yules from The Princess Bride. We've got Kurtwood Smith, who played Clarence Boddicker in RoboCop. So, and oh, there was one more that I was like, wow. Oh,
Well,
well, Jennifer Rubin. But,
Jennifer.
but
You're like, oh wait, it's Jennifer.
yeah, where are we talking? What show is this again? Yeah, but man, it was intense. It was an intense thriller. I
It
mean, like,
was. You didn't know she was gonna go to the lengths that she did,
yeah. I mean,
but
long story short, like Carrie Yules, speaking of renting rooms, Jennifer likes these movies about renting rooms. Carrie Yules rents this house, and the daughter of the parents who rented it out to him becomes obsessed with them, and she's 14, and um
and he's only
when
28, but still,
28 in
yeah.
the movie, yeah, and when he's kind of refusing her advances, like she goes to great lengths to make his life absolute hell. And I mean, like, wow, what a movie.
Yeah, and this is a
I
thriller.
mean,
I don't know how it got to the R rating, but it's a thriller that anyone could watch. It doesn't have gore in it or anything.
no, I wouldn't. Yeah, I don't think an R rating would have been. Yeah, I think it could have. PG-13 would have been
Hmm.
suitable. What a
Yeah.
good movie. I would watch this again anytime.
And if
So
you're
glad I
wondering
watched it.
where Jennifer fits into this, she is the love interest
Yes.
who is like, this girl's got a crush on you. You better be careful.
Hmm.
So, and then there's, a couple moments where Darian slash Adrian There's a couple moments where she almost seems threatening
Absolutely.
to
Well, there are a
Amy.
couple of moments where she might be threatening to
Yeah,
Amy. I'm not going to say anything
there
else.
were undertones.
Undertones. Listen, this movie is on Tubi if you guys are interested in it. But
Yeah.
if you like a good intense thriller, I highly recommend The Crush. Like I loved it.
And
So
some wouldn't you agree that some spots are kind of like uncomfortable because you're like, what is she gonna do now?
yes,
So yeah, gotta
yeah,
love the 90s.
yeah.
Yeah, they
Oh
had some
yeah,
good
and they were getting
ideas.
away with some things in this movie that that would not fly now.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
it's just a different time. So, but yeah, great watch.
Yeah, that was probably one of my favorites out of the list that we had to go through.
Yeah,
And yeah, I honestly I would probably even go back and watch that one again. That's probably my third watch.
really.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, and what I was saying before too, like at the end, I guess this didn't make it out of the edits, but it's all those letters that he was getting from her, the very, I'm not giving too much away, but it still said D dot and then her last name.
did it
So they,
really? I didn't notice
yeah,
it.
but
Okay.
I didn't notice it because in my I was in my head still thinking Darian. So,
Wow.
but yeah, so these are the movies that I mean, she has plenty more if you want to check out her filmography, but she will be at Scarefest in October. And, with the rest of like the guy that played Will, the guy that played Kincaid, even, Heather Langenkamp, Robert Englund, they're all going to be there. So what we'll be doing is going through just choosing someone every week. It might not be Jason every week, but I'm so grateful that he decided to do this with me because he
Oh,
loves movies just as much as I do.
yeah.
So, but yeah, she might be worth your time to go and check her out. I always say you don't know how long people will be doing these conventions. Sometimes they just get to a point where they don't want to do it anymore. Like Catherine Hicks, for example, she had said something, I think either last year or the year before, someone in the horror community said they were able to get her autograph and that she had said, I don't want, this is my last one. I kind of want to be done with them now. So you
Yeah,
just never know. So if
sure.
someone is has played iconic roles that you really like, you would love to get to meet them, I would do it. Like if it's somewhere within driving distance or close to you or you have the means to get there, I mean,
Well, and I don't remember which convention it is, but Dana Kimmel from Friday the 13th Part 3
yeah.
never does conventions, and she's doing this one, and it's kind of like a big deal that they got her.
I'm
Um,
it's always someone that you kind of cross your fingers that you hope they stay on because anything can happen if you're watching this and you've never gone to a horror convention. Sometimes people can drop out even the day before. They maybe have some kind of a work type of situation where they can't do the convention. So I don't get too excited until I'm there in front of them. But
right.
it's just always that risk, right?
Anything can happen. Yeah,
Yeah. So, Jason, thank you so much for diving into this with me.
of course. Thank you
I
for having me on. So,
I'm curious to see down the road who else we get to highlight. And yeah, so
yeah, yeah. Scarefest guest announcements are still very young.
yeah,
So,
it goes from now through even sometimes a week or two before they'll pop one, on
right,
Scarefest TV. So,
right.
but all right, that's it for us for today, and we will see you next time.
To you guys.